have they quit? You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if they've quit, but they played flat, and I just think the whole situation is very deflating. It's time for them to make a lot of changes. There needs to be a culture change. I think a lot more people expected the Tom Coughlin to be more impactful, and for a period of time it was. But let's not kid ourselves. Even though they got a great return for Jalen Ramsey, when you trade a premium player like that in the middle of the season, nobody's going to sit here and tell me that a team isn't going to be deflated. Leonard Fournette's having a pretty decent year. They've identified DJ Chark and then Josh Oliver. But remember, you need 53 guys on the field pulling their weight. And you can, and unlike baseball where you get 5 or 6 guys that can carry you, not the case in football. I don't care what level you're on. But I don't think they've quit. But it's just been an unfortunate year, and with a lot of things that have gone wrong, injuries haven't helped. But I won't use injuries as an excuse for football because every team experiences them in some way, shape, or form.
It's always going to happen when it comes to injuries in football. You always got to be ready for the next man up. And if you don't have that next man up, then, you're going to have moments like this with the Jags. But they're in a very interesting situation because if they do decide to part ways with Tom Coughlin, Doug Marrone, Dave Caldwell, and, bring in this whole new regime, they'll have all these draft picks, but they'll also have a situation at quarterback because Gardner Minshew is – shown some sparks this year, and we don't know what to expect out of Nick Foles either. So, I just can't believe the Jags, after only 5 years, are going to be rebuilding once again. Right?
Well, let's talk about some interesting parts of the Jaguars that you alluded to.
Go for it.
5 games in a row, they've gotten blown out, not competitive. Number 2, Nick Foles, I expect him to be around for a second year, but he needs to see a lot of reps during the preseason. And I think that his lack of familiarity with his supporting cast definitely attributed to a problem that he's had acclimating. The injury, that happens. You can't say anything about that. Gardner Minshew certainly is the quarterback of the future there. They need to get these last 4 games to find out what you have in the guy. So I don't know if I really value the quarterback position as a problem with them yet, because you when they do bring in a new regime, you don't know what kind of offense you're going to have in there as well. But the key on that offense is Leonard Fournette. Without Leonard Fournette, you're looking at a 1-15 team.
I don't know what to say anymore, about Jacksonville.
Well, we'll see. I'll see him not this Sunday, but the following Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons in the Unemployment Bowl. Okay, presented by the South Florida Tribune and Jake Rongholt Sports Incorporated. So you were talking about the Mets. Here, let me give you a little thing to throw your way. Breaking news. The Mets and Rick Porcello have agreed to a 1-year deal for $10 million. So you want to go ahead and throw that into the hot stove equation? You go right ahead and do that. Rick Porcello is headed to Queens, and the exile out of Boston continues. And, you want to talk about the Boston Red Sox, they let Dave Dombrowski go, and they're shedding a lot of payroll as well. And who would have thought that would happen from the Boston Red Sox?
I think it was after they pretty much fell down to earth after only one great year. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that help. Man alive. So they go get Michael Wacha. They go get Rick Porcello. But you got to keep in mind, Porcello's now 30 years old. He's coming off his worst season, 5.52 ERA. It's kind of funny to me how their new general manager is a former agent, and he is not at all communicating, talking, or acting like an agent anymore. He's just going on and he's like, okay, I'll get this past his prime, past his prime, past his prime. Hey, guys, what's Carlos Beltran doing nowadays? Oh, nothing? Hey, let's make him our manager. It's the same old thing with the Mets year after year after year. That it doesn't matter. But, I don't get it. I don't get it, Scott. Goodness, Rick Porcello? Really?
Yeah, really. It happened. Can't make this stuff up. Well, I could. Then they call it fake news, but no, this is real news. Go figure. Okay. Rick Porcello is going to the Mets, a team that you just had a field day talking about. So, all right. Well,
yeah.
we'll transition over to referees. I know now that we've got the Thursday night football part of it out of the way.
Yep.
We'll talk about the referees. They're making news, I believe, for a lot of the wrong reasons.
Boy, this feels like that true story. Remember that film, The Insider, with Russell Crowe and Al Pacino? It was directed by Michael Mann. It was about cigarettes. And it feels like that right now with the referees. It kind of feels like there's about to be a whistleblower on the referees, and this is about to become a big story. But, I mean, the word is starting to get out. The NFL has decided, according to The Athletic, that they are going to do a top to bottom check on refereeing. And Scott, I've never seen refereeing this bad. I've seen it in the NBA. I have never seen it in the NFL as bad as it has become. And it goes back to this, and I love it how everybody, they have such a short attention span nowadays. People do. They don't realize, when did this micromanaging of refereeing start? Well, I'll tell you folks. After Mike, I believe, let me think of his name here. Okay, so Dean Blandino, it was a successor to this, as I continue to try and find him. Dean Blandino is the VP of officiating. He comes up with this grand idea to use red challenge flags. Okay, Mike Pereira was his name. Mike Pereira was a longtime VP of officiating. He was terrific at his job. Blandino comes in, micromanages the hell out of it. And it comes to a point where, we got these red challenge flags out there. Okay, fine. So we're going to make some stoppages here. And then it continues on with Al Riveron. And so ever since Blandino left, Riveron has turned this thing into a disaster. They still refuse to do full-time refereeing. They should. But that's the problem, too. Guys like Ed Hockley and John Perry and all these guys and Gene Steratore, they all had jobs. They were doing this on a part-time basis. And they did such a great job. But because of the way that the officiating has gone now in the last couple years, now they have no choice. They got to figure a way out. Either they make these guys full-time or they start taking away these red challenge flags, because it's bad. It is truly, I lost track, Scott. I watched tons of football on Sunday, and I counted about 3 to 5 terrible penalties a game. I was watching the Chiefs and the Patriots. I saw Patrick Mahomes more on the ground than ever. And I sat there and went, you do realize the ball was out of his hand, roughing the passer, and the referees are like, I don't know. Nobody wanted to talk about that. Everybody wanted to talk about, N'Keal Harry getting into the end zone, and that should have been a touchdown. But, but the Patriots ran out of challenges because the referees weren't doing their jobs. And that's a mess there. I saw it in the Packers game. I saw it in the Baltimore Ravens game. When Earl Thomas was called for unnecessary roughness, even though he was just getting up and he accidentally fell on the quarterback, and they called a 15-yard penalty against him. And everybody was like, where was the penalty? And nobody knew. And that is an issue. When I always say to people, when you are sitting on a couch and you can see the mistakes in the football game, that is a problem. And the NFL has got to do something about this ASAP, Scott, because, and I'm not going to lie to you, there's a bunch of people saying this, but there could be a call in the playoffs that could be as worse as the Saints last year. And the NFL, they got to figure something out here, because if that happens again, we're going to have another pass interference style argument, dominating the sports radio waves.
Yeah, well, you said a mouthful, and I agree with you on all of it. Here's the deal, okay? The Saints situation.
Go, so I go.
Oh, you're doing. No, I enjoy that. That's okay. One thing about people like you, Jake, you definitely get my wheels turning in more ways than one. Your energy to me is more, gets me going more than Diet Coke and Diet Mountain Dew for all the right reasons. You make Jolt look like water. But, yeah. Well, let's talk about proactive for a moment, okay, Jake? When things get really, really, really bad, that's when the NFL knows what they've got to do. But this is a disaster, okay? It makes a hurricane look like a glorified rainstorm. But here's the deal, okay? You talk about these guys that have gone to the broadcast booth. Well, they see it and they're confirming what we all see, and they're seeing the game from a much different aspect than they did when they're on the field. The thing that we all have to understand is you have so many uh, officials on the field with so many different moving plays that they all see different things depending on the angle for which they're at.
Right.
You're right.
And
You need full time referees, is what you need to do. I wouldn't be surprised to see the system get overhauled during the offseason. And let's face it, the way the owners operate it, when it becomes a PR nightmare and it takes money out of their pocket because they don't gain those additional postseason revenues, what do you think happens, Jake, when the owners are hitting the pocketbook? Then what? You tell me.
things change.
Bingo. Thank you. Okay. And that's exactly what will happen here. Now, I don't know about you, but I love watching the hockey playoffs and even hockey because you have
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of different moving parts there. But in many cases, they don't mind swallowing the whistle a little bit, or they'll let certain plays go, especially in the playoffs. And unfortunately, the NFL hasn't quite figured that out. But, you got to remember another thing, too, though. Compared to things in the past, you've got more different ways to scrutinize it. You have streaming, you have social media. It wasn't back in the day when I broke into the industry that they weren't being scrutinized as much as they are now. Therefore, there's a lot more pressure, and it becomes a real big snowball that turns into an avalanche. So I'm with you. I think they'll definitely see an overhaul of the system. Whether they have full-time referees or not, I don't know. We'll just see how bad it has to get before it gets better until they
That's a
ultimately end up doing something.
That's a great point. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, there was a time in the day when football, when you could have worked part-time jobs, you could have been a lawyer, a doctor, or anything, and you could have gone and done a job on Sunday, doing an NFL game. But like you said, the streaming, the numerous amount of cameras. I mean, when they came out with that sky cam, the sideline cameras, all that kind of stuff. There are so many different angles now that a football fan can see. They have no choice. They have to make this a full-time ref because I always say that when I see the referees in a huddle, it's never good
Right.
because that means somebody sees something different. This one sees something different, and now it's conflicting, and they don't know what to do. And then the lead ref has no choice; he has to take what he believes is right and make the call, even though majority is wrong. And that's never good. I mean, the only time, Scott, you should ever see referees huddle is if it's an unnecessary roughness penalty, if it's a helmet to helmet, if it's anything egregious. But if it's like holding or pass interference or anything, leave it alone. Just say, hey, holding number 75. Okay, got it. 10-yard penalty. All right, replay the down.
Well, Jake, you got these drones. I don't even know what a drone is. I've only seen one in person, but that's another
The
thing,
ex
I suppose.
machinas, yes.
Yeah, I guess they have those things. Maybe you'll have to give me an education on what these things are. And now I'm sitting up in the press box looking at these cameras on these little ropes, looking at stuff. I mean, it's beyond what I ever visualized it can ever really be. But, yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, you have so much technology; it's amazing. It can't get it right, and that happens with every sport. Baseball, is there a real good replay challenge system that's any good? What kind of wrinkles will the XFL throw out later on this spring? We don't; those are things we'll find out as time goes on, and we'll leave that for another broadcast. Otherwise, we'll be here till my birthday in about a couple of weeks. So, but yeah, no, I think things do have to get. They have to get worse before they're going to get better. And let me tell you, come postseason, which is right around the corner, okay? If you think that you talked about the hot stove on baseball, can you imagine how much hotter the stove will be in football when these referees and the officials are scrutinized to the max?
Well, Scott, and here's the problem too is that, and there was a great point brought up by Tony Kornheiser on Pardon the Interruption this week. He goes, every single week, we are always talking about how bad the referees are. And, Michael Wilbon is agreeing as they go back and forth with this. It's a problem when this is a countless subject that people talk about all the time on here. And they got to do something. First things first. If you are the vice president of officiating and Roger